Life's best moments are best captured by photography and video. You may ask, why photography and video? Because if a photo is worth 1,000 words, video is worth 1,000,000. And GPS photography and video will leave you speechless. GPS specializes in weddings, swords, fitness, and so much more. Book your next shoot today at 910-257-0526 or gpsphotoandvideo.com.
Welcome to the podcast, The Amazon's Podcast. For the second hour, I'm Glenn Young, owner of Amazon's Fitness Magazine. The podcast is brought to you by, as you saw earlier, Michelle Bogdan, Maximus Posing Suits. Celebrate your inner warrior. Custom competition suits for victory on every stage. MaximusPosingSuits.com. And of course, me, Glenn Young, GPS photography and video. Why photography and video? Because a photo's worth 1,000 words, video's worth 1,000,000. GPSPhotoandVideo.com. Joining me is writer, contributor to Amazon's Fitness Magazine, IFBB Women's Bodybuilder Pro, coach, and so much more, Gina Cavaliero.
Hey,
Gina,
Glenn.
Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
Well, this should have been a long time coming because you've been just like Teresa Avancic. You've been writing for Amazon's coming up on a year. A lot of great articles, a lot of great content. And you speak from someone that's been there, done that, and still doing it. So that's exciting. And I really appreciate you for that because you give a different take that people don't understand from a coach's pulpit, but also from a competitor's standpoint as well. So I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you letting me write for the magazine.
That was too easy. You know, it's me who owes you, because without that content, the magazine doesn't go. And you offer a lot of knowledge and insight, and I really appreciate it. Plus, you hang out with some good friends, too, like Hella Trevino, Irene Anderson. So, yeah, you got a lot going on there. We're going to talk about that. But talk to me, the Triple O Dynasty set for next week.
Next weekend. Yeah, so I was planning to do Triple O. I was going to do the show. It's been the plan all along, all prep. But my body had a couple other ideas about it. So we kind of had to kind of shift gears and do some different things and prep and pull back a little bit. So I'm now 6.5 weeks out to New York.
So you won't be competing in the Triple O Dynasty?
No. As much as I'd like to, I would love the idea of doing that show and supporting Andrea and it being the first show. But it's not going to be able to bring what we want to bring to that show. So.
Right. What can you talk to me about what happened, or was there anything radical that happened?
I wouldn't say it's radical. It's perhaps unique. I mean, everybody's pretty much probably aware that I've had some health challenges, the most recent being hypertension. And, we figured out how to manage that aspect really well through prep. That really hasn't been an issue until, a few weeks before I left Dubai, coming to Colombia, was going hard and low carb and a lot of cardio and a lot of things going on, wrapping up clients and getting ready to pretty much move my life, around the world.
Right.
And I just started having this major issue with water retention. So my body, when it gets
because of all the travel.
Exactly, all the stress.
Okay.
So the issue is with mine, it just, once it does it, it doesn't want to let go. And so It literally was weeks before we were able to kind of get that reaction calmed down. Had to take like a week off. I needed to, once I got to Colombia, I needed to just kind of kick back and relax. Feed some carbs, let my body know, hey, we're not trying to kill you, chill out. And, back off training and cardio for a week. And it worked. Things are right back where they should be. But we definitely lost some time And of course, there's always the concern with blood pressure being elevated because you're retaining a lot of water. So,
Right.
it was something we definitely had to get under control, and we did. So,
Mm. Do you think just doing too much and you should have slowed down earlier? Did you see this coming, or? But I
um,
mean, you got clients, one of which you were working with was Hella, obviously, and then you're going, from Colombia. Where were you originally? You were traveling from?
Dubai. I've been in Dubai for
Oh
like the
yeah,
last year and a half.
exactly. So you going all over the world, man. I mean,
I've been
yeah,
around. Yeah,
yeah,
getting around. I think it was a combination of things, but I wasn't surprised. My body has done this every prep for the last 5 years,
okay,
to one degree or another. And there's been preps where we didn't really know what to do, or the coach I
right,
was with at the time didn't know what to do, and we just struggled through it. But and it certainly impacted my look on stage those seasons. I didn't look good, you know.
hmm,
Um, so it's just everybody's different. Every body is different, and mine doesn't like doing this as much as I like doing it. My body
right.
just doesn't think a lot of it. So it I need to just listen to it, and when it's talking to me, do what it wants to do, and then it'll play along nicely. So
Well, that's the main thing is always your health intact, and then you know this because
absolutely.
you are a coach. Now, who is your coach for this prep, or are you coaching
Oh,
your?
Hella,
Okay,
yeah,
well, that's unique. So you've coached her, and now she's coaching you. Talk to
yeah.
me about that
Well, so
makeup.
I train her. I'm
Right.
her neuromuscular STEM coach.
Okay.
So we focus a lot on programming and physique development and
Hmm.
muscle growth. So when it comes to the prep and her nutrition and supplementation, that's somebody else. She
Right.
has
Okay.
being who she is, she has a team of coaches. There's three of us.
Right.
So and it's not the first time we've worked together. We worked together season before last,
Yeah.
2022. I did the same thing, and then towards the end of the prep, kind of helped her with her finishing her prep as well. And Helen and I worked together where she coached me before.
Hmm.
That was the last season I competed. So it doesn't seem to matter which direction it's going. If it's her coaching, training me coaching, training her. We just work really well together. So we make a good team.
I got you. Well, that's great. Talk to me now. The schedule is to go on to the New York Pro, which I believe is on May 18th.
Yes.
So still right in the thick of things. So it's not like a long layoff, and you're back on schedule where you need to be. What are your aspirations if you're going to the New York Pro now?
Uh, just to do as best I can,
Hmm.
For me, really, this season was about bringing my best to the stage. I haven't yet, you know,
Hmm.
um, and I've had more time off than I wanted. It's
Hmm.
been 3 years now since I've been on stage, and I never intended to have a 3-year break. The first year was thyroid and shoulder, and then blood pressure, and
Right.
so it's been a few different things. But over the course of that time, I've been able to develop my physique, and the holes I had last time, when they said we want more leg, we want more sweep, we want more low lat. Well, guess what? I'm bringing that. So
Yeah.
it's been plenty of time to focus on putting together the best physique I'm capable of, and so I'm just super excited about being able to you know kind of put it all together and get it on
Right.
stage, and finally, after such a long time.
Well, looking forward to it and glad you're okay. Number one,
Thank
and
you.
then of course, hey, you still gonna be on the stage this year, so hey, let's go
Yes.
get it. So I want to segue into your relationship. Obviously, you already talked about it a little bit with Hella Trevino, but also Irene Anderson and y'all's business that y'all got going on. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so we started a coaching team. It's called
Hmm.
Team 4 Pro Coaching, and it was it's something that we've kicked around for quite some time. As we're coaches in the industry, and Helen and I, obviously we've worked together both ways coaching, and we know that we pretty much work from the same book. What we do is very similar. We have the same theories and principles in the way we coach our athletes, and it just made sense to partner up. There's let's say holes in my coaching knowledge, but everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. For like one of mine is I'm just really good with assessing lab results and directing people on health prevention when it comes to what we do, and remediation. So that's something that I've always helped Hella with. Whereas I send all of my clients to Hella proposing. Can I coach proposing? I absolutely can. She coaches it better. I just straight up watch her do it, and I'm like, oh, she does it better than I do. So if you just kind of play to everybody's strengths, you just put together even a better team. And what industry doesn't need that?
And then, of course, Irene, what's her role?
Irene is an amazing coach as well, and she brings to the table just like a diversity of experience and things that Helen and I had no clue about. I mean, she has a background in MMA fighting. She's was a champion fighter. So she understands the ins and outs of that, and the diet, nutrition, how important it is for athletes when it comes to dieting. So there's other sports, not just bodybuilding, where that's pretty critical, obviously. So she just brings other pieces that we don't have.
With all three of you in, what would you say is the total number years of experience? Because when you add it up, that's a lot of knowledge and power.
I think we added it. It's over 50 years experience.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. So, I mean, that's a natural appeal to any client that would want you to coach them or get them ready for a show. Talk to me about some of your clients. Are y'all mostly online, in person? Because y'all in 3 different geographical areas. Where's Irene? Is she in Columbia as well?
No,
You're
Irene
in Dubai. Hella's in Columbia.
I'm in Columbia as well now. So
okay, now
I'll be with Hella till after the Olympia.
Okay.
And Irene lives in Sweden. So she bounces back and forth. She comes to the States, obviously, for shows. So we do primarily online coaching. We will do one-on-one personal training as well, if it's somebody in the area that one of us is located in. So there's always the option if an athlete wants us to travel to them and do a 2-week focus on something. That's something we do as well. So really, location's not too critical. Unless you want something long term, obviously. But yes, the vast majority is online.
And it was amazing to meet all of you in Orlando, and we know how that all turned out. So
yeah,
that's great. You picked up a sponsor. I mean, obviously you write and contribute to Amazon's Fitness Magazine. We'll talk about that in a moment. But talk to me about Bad Rap and your relationship. You were sponsored by them.
Amazing company, and 2 ladies that are running it, Eunice Martinez Kitchen and JoJo Folks. So this is Eunice's brainchild. Bad Rap is a term. I mean, she's used for something like 20 or 30 years. She came up with this a long time ago, and she's been in the industry that long as well. Eunice has been competing in women's bodybuilding for years, and she was in a position where she wanted to be able to help the athletes and to give back to the sport. So it's really a very athlete-focused and centered business where proceeds from their profits go to the athletes. Whether it's I'm being sponsored. I'm one of the first sponsored athletes, and we can use those funds for anything show related. And there's so many expenses. When it comes to the show.
Oh yes.
Travel, hotel, tan, makeup, all that good stuff. So to have that kind of support, financial support, is incredible. Because if you want to do a couple shows, and you got to travel, you're looking at several $1,000s to.
Oh yes.
So they've really set out to help sponsor several athletes this year, and they seem to be off to a great start with their merchandise. They got it up and going right around Christmas time, so pretty sure they got a really cool product coming out here soon. I'm excited to see them unveil that. I think it's going to be quite the game changer to the industry.
Well, it's easy to see. The name says it all. Bad rap, and that's literally what women's bodybuilding has been getting, a bad rap for a long time. Whether people feel that you guys are too big, nobody wants to see you. A lot of the stuff that I experienced, there was a reason that I wrote or started Amazon's fitness magazine. That nobody wants to see you guys on stage, and it's just not true. Because I'm definitely a fan, so I think that's great with what they're doing. And as the brand grows, look forward to seeing it. I know I've been seeing some clips about some different clothing lines that they're coming out with, but most importantly, up front, they're sponsoring athletes, and that's great. Do they have a specific criteria for what they're looking to do? Do they only sponsor women's bodybuilders or other categories as well?
I think starting out initially, it's just women's bodybuilders. I think they'll
Mhm.
probably branch out into the other divisions as well. And there was no criteria really.
Mhm.
I imagine as the program grows and develops, and there's more
Right.
demand, so things always kind of have that organic, effect where they just have to eventually, set some type of criteria. Of course, there's expectations, of the
Mhm.
sponsored
Right.
athlete, So, but as far as like criteria, I think you just had to be competing this year.
Right. And women's bodybuilding number one, and then the other two categories is catching shade, of course, is women's physique and figure. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's been something. So we'll leave that there because enough
yeah.
has been in the news about that, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. Love the colors. Bad rap speaks for itself. It really needs no explanation. We know who we're talking about as far as who's getting a bad rap. So we talked about you've been writing with Amazon's fitness magazine in a segment called the Coach's Corner, and you've been traveling everything from tracking everything from a coach's perspective. And the latest article you wrote for the March issue was "Why a Coach?" And I was looking through this and just to see some of the horror stories that you talked about. I mean, tell me a little bit more about this article that you wrote from a coach's perspective, and you talked about a lot of personal things that you went through.
Yeah, so normally the articles I write for you are very third person, non-personal.
Right.
They're information. And when I started thinking about the article for this month, and I was thinking about the importance of why a coach, and that question became twofold. Why should you have a coach, and why did I become a coach? Why did I want to be a coach?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I didn't set out in bodybuilding to coach at all.
Mm-hmm.
I had other businesses I was running, successful businesses. I, wasn't a fitness professional when I began bodybuilding,
Right.
and I had such a horrible experience with coaches that it forced me down that path.
Mm-hmm.
It not only became let me learn more so I can protect myself and make better decisions, but let me learn more so I can protect others and become a really good coach so others hopefully don't have to have all these bad experiences I had. You know,
Right.
um, unfortunately in our industry, there's, I don't want to even say use the word regulation because I hate that concept.
Right.
But anybody can essentially hang up a shingle and say, "Hey, I'm a prep coach." They did one show, or their girlfriend did a show,
Right.
and now they're a prep coach. And there's just so much to it. And when it comes to health, when it comes to performance, when it's not just about getting on stage and getting the trophy and getting the win, but getting that athlete on stage with their health intact. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I think it gets sacrificed too often. I know that was my experience, with the multitude of coaches I had. Um, so, you know, the other aspect was, why should we have a coach? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine doing this without a coach. I mean, I've coached myself, but I also knew what I was doing. But to try to do this sport without guidance, if you don't already know it, it's a hard path. And if you want to succeed, the best way to do that is to have someone show you how to do that and what to do.
Talk to me about the liability. Is there any recourse that a competitor would have? Because my assumption is, okay, you're going to be my coach. We're going to sign a contract. And you start thinking about things. Is there a liability clause in there that if X, Y, and Z happen, I'm not liable? How does that work?
Interestingly, there's not much liability safeguards in our industry at all. I personally don't use a contract. I have a agreement, a client agreement that has some information in it, but it's certainly not a contract. And with all the different coaches I've been with, I only ever had one that required me to sign a contract. So I don't think it's common, and when it comes to liability, we all know that even if you have a hold harmless that someone signs, if someone gets very hurt, ill, dies, does it hold water in court? Usually not, right? So I don't even know if those kind of protections work, but there's been no repercussions of what's happened in the sport already.
And I find that amazing because I'm like, this person really has your life in their hands. It would seem like there would be something in writing, and then in there you talk a non-disclosure agreement, confidentiality agreement. If X, Y, and Z happens, I'm not liable. I know as a photographer, if I'm shooting an event like a wedding, and something happens that the equipment doesn't work, I do have a liability clause in there that I'm not liable. That it rained that day or what have you. And I know that's sort of watered down and simplifying it, but it would just seem, as a fan outside looking in, there would be some kind of paperwork between the coach and the athlete.
You would think. Like I said, I don't think there's as much of it as you think there would be or should be. And there's the very other real side of the issue is, even though this coach is technically responsible, I don't know, that's a vague word, because are they responsible, or you're paying for a service, right? So you're paying to get something, and you're willingly doing it. So the athlete is the responsible party. You don't have to do what the coach says. The coach says, take XYZ, and you take XYZ and something bad happens, you chose to do it. So I think there's potentially just maybe a big loophole there. I do put on my nutrition information, even my health supplementation. I'm telling you to take vitamins and minerals. There's a disclaimer at the bottom. Gina Cavalo is neither a doctor or a medical practitioner, blah, blah, blah. These supplements are suggested to enhance your athletic performance and health. So would that help me if I ever needed it legally? I don't know. But at least I feel that I'm informing my clients, which I'm pretty sure none of them come to me and think, oh, she must be a doctor or something. I know I'm not, but
well, in the end, it's CYA. You gotta cover yourself. But the devil's advocate part of it is, okay, it's 2024. Everybody knows what PEDs do, and if you abuse them, X, Y, and Z is going to happen. And so the knowledge is out there. So it's like, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware, because you should do your own research before you getting into the competition of bodybuilding. As well as, I would say, you need to go see a psychological counselor, get some mental help, because you need to have your head examined to do what you guys do, it would seem. But I don't buy the fact that it's the coach's fault. I think a lot of it now, with all the information out there and all the stories is out there, if you don't do your due diligence, a lot of that's on you. And the only thing that's going to save anybody, and like I said, I haven't seen any litigation or anyone being sued along these lines. And I think that's pretty amazing when you think about it, because, in the end, you got to cover yourself. And if you're doing this sport, you know what it does, especially now in 2024. If you haven't done your research, to me, that's on you. I don't know. I don't hold with, okay, the coach's fault and the coach did this and the coach did that. What did you do? Because you may have used the protocols that he had him on. And so, you know, it's a marriage, it's a
Absolutely.
husband and wife type of situation. So,
Yes. It's a huge trust relationship.
talk to me a little bit more when you say why a coach, you coach yourself for the amateur or the person, literally starting out. Yeah, you should have a coach, know the cost involved. How do they select the coach? They say, oh, I think I'm going to compete. And of course, everybody's in the gym working out, say, do you compete? And then they get approached by a coach or someone and they say, hey, you should compete. How should an amateur handle that? What are the steps that they should take?
So, I think for some people, finding a coach, finding a good coach, it's difficult. I mean, so
Mm-hmm.
you have social media, but and what you see of the prominent coaches doesn't always mean that those are the best coach for you. You
Right.
know, so I just encourage athletes to talk to other athletes. That's usually the best resource you're going to have is
Mm-hmm.
who have you worked with, who did you like, who what did you like, and the next thing is interview the coach, ask
Mm-hmm.
lots of questions. you know First, top of my list is if I send an inquiry to a coach and they don't respond to me fairly
Mm-hmm.
quickly, that doesn't have to be like within an hour,
Right.
at least within a couple few days, they don't get back to me, that's a red flag. Because one of the things in our industry, in our service that we do as coaches, is you need to be hyper responsive. Not all the time, but there's points and times during preps and nearing stage that you need to respond
Mm-hmm.
immediately, essentially. And you hear the stories all the time is my coach takes 3 days to respond to my update, or my coach never responded to my update. My coach said that, oh, I forgot to hit send. Well, great, I'm a week out, what am I supposed to be doing? you know
Wow.
um, so it's that's at the top of my list. I want somebody that's going to be responsive, especially if I'm a potential customer.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't
Mm-hmm.
give me your time and respond quickly in a timely manner to somebody who you might make a sale to, what are you going to do once you got my money?
Right.
um, so and then have a list of questions, and don't be afraid to ask them things straight up about peds, about have you worked with women my age, have you worked with
Right.
women that are postmenopausal,
Right.
if you're a male athlete, have you worked with classic physique athletes, you know anything that you can think of that will give you more information to make your decision. you know the important thing is to at least try to make as an informed decision as you can. And um, that's about all you can do. It's
Mm-hmm.
But I know that when I made my decisions early on, I didn't do that. I
Right.
didn't ask questions. I just assumed, oh well, he's using him, well he must be good,
Right.
or you know you live and learn.
Take me down the road of coaching when you're talking titles. So you got coach, is that posing coach? You got nutritionist, is that coach and nutritionist? You got trainer. Talk to me about those various titles in those roles under the whole umbrella of coaching.
Well, I think probably the top of the umbrella or the top of the list is prep coach.
Okay.
That's the big one. But you can have prep coach that might do everything. Some prep coaches may do your nutrition, your training programming, your
Right.
supplementation, your posing. Maybe they can even choreograph your routine and help you with that. Um,
Okay.
Whereas you might go to somebody that just does posing. We have some people in the industry that are just posing gurus.
Mm-hmm.
So there's just posing coaches. Um, I think there's some prep coaches that do mainly nutrition and supplementation and don't really focus so much on the training programming. So I've actually worked with clients who didn't get programming for their training,
Mm-hmm.
but their prep coach did everything else. you know.
Right.
So it really depends on the coach and who you're working with and how many different coaches you want. You might want, Hella, for instance, has a mobility coach that's just strictly for mobility. So the more coaches, the more guidance you can have. I mean, if you're able to do that, obviously the better.
Got you. And then of course you go down the lines as you just said, the therapy coach or chiropractor.
There's
Uh,
absolutely that
yeah,
massage therapist,
right,
chiropractor, your body work people. Yeah, that's essential part of the team too.
right. So when you look and you add all this up, talk to me about the cost of a coach. What would you say is the bare minimum cost to an amateur starting out, all the way up to an Olympian versus what they would be paying, obviously.
Oh my gosh, Glenn, don't make me add it up. I don't want to know the
Just
number.
just give me a ballpark. I'm doing my first NPC amateur show. How much would that cost to prepare me
All right,
for?
so if you're just your first show, you're an amateur,
Mhm.
you know,
Don't know nothing.
your coach, you're probably going to be able to find somebody for $150, $200 a month, maybe.
Hmm.
My guess would be is this is either a new coach or somebody who hasn't coached a lot of athletes at a high level.
Right.
Maybe just deals with amateurs, which could be fine for you. It's your first show. Up to $450, $500 a month, depending on who you work with.
Right.
And if you're just going to use that coach for prep, you're looking at maybe 4 to 5 months of that.
Hmm.
If it's your first show, you might want to use them through an off season to actually build your physique, unless you've just done that on your own and you're like, hey, I want to do a prep and do a show. And then you've got, of course, the show expense. You've got an NPC card, which I'm not quite sure how much that is nowadays, maybe $200 for NPC card.
275, I think, is the last number.
275.
Yeah.
The show registration, which depending on the show, that's going to be anywhere from like 75 to maybe, I don't know, the national. It's your national shows, you're looking at $450.
Right.
Then your suit.
Hmm.
Again, that can be like a huge variation. You can get one for
$800 to
$200.
$1,200 and talk with
You could be
show
2,000.
Yeah.
Hair, makeup, tan. Those
That's
are
about a easy 250, right?
a 150 to 175 each, right? So you're
Yeah.
looking at like $500 for the 3 of those. If it's not
Tanning.
close to home, hotel.
Yeah. Travel, lodging. Yeah.
Yep. So even at the amateur level, you're probably putting out a couple thousand easily
Yeah.
to do a show.
Easy. And it may not be the best show for you select, but you choose one close to home, and you may have done better at a show cross country.
Yeah.
Because everybody tries to get in front of certain coaches and stuff like that. But to pull it back into coaching, do you need a opposing coach? Some say yeah,
As a
some
new
say no.
first timer,
Yeah.
if you can swing it, sure. I mean, even if you're an amateur and it's your first show, the better you can display your physique, the better you're going to do.
Right.
So if you can afford opposing coach, yeah, at least do a few sessions to get your mandatories down.
Okay. So let's transition a little further. Now I got my pro card. I'm getting ready for that first pro show. Do I switch coaches? Because everybody gets on this whole coaching carousel thing, and which can be dangerous because they're like, okay, well, this person got me my pro card, but I know this person or this coach can get me to the Olympia stage. So I guess this would be like the intermediate. What do those costs look like?
I think you're probably definitely moving up from you're not spending 150 to 200 a month on your coach at this point. I think you're probably easily 350 to 450 range. You're probably working with opposing coach if your coach doesn't do it.
Right.
You're a pro. You're definitely more serious about your body work, your chiropractic work. So you're seeing, ideally, if you can swing it, a massage therapist weekly. And depending where you're at in the States, that's $150 a week. So it rapidly, exponentially gets more expensive, right? But as far as like switching coaches just because you're a pro, and think you switch coaches because you've outgrown your coach, or
Right.
somehow your coach failed you and it's not working.
Yeah.
Um, you know, you can have a great relationship, amazing relationship with your coach, have nothing go wrong, but you can
Mm-hmm.
outgrow them. You
No.
know,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and I also think that if your coach hasn't coached an Olympian, it just might be a matter of yet.
Right.
I always said that coaches kind of need a big break. They need
Mm-hmm.
that athlete that can catapult them into the
Right.
limelight.
So that
Um,
you're a name like a Vu
yeah,
or Starnes or because
exactly.
you're
You can
known.
be an amazing coach, but if you don't
Right.
have, and ideally, what happens because you're a good coach, you get more and more athletes, and you get better athletes, and eventually you'll start working with those high level athletes. Um, but I always say that every coach needs their big break. You know,
Right. So now I got my pro card. I'm trying to qualify for the Olympia. Talk to me about that cost. Because now here again, someone may change coaches, or now everything is because now you're at that next level. From amateur to pro, and now you're at trying to get that Olympia stage. And everybody said, "Well, you could be an Olympian, or this is up and comer." What's that cost like?
well,
Because the
I
bigger the
mean,
show, the bigger the cost, and
you're gonna have more expenses. Sure, the deeper you get into it, right? But
right,
I think it's kind of leveled out at that point now, until you get to like the Olympia level when you're actually in. It's not a matter of should I get the massage therapy. Now it's part of your training program. You need to see
mm,
the therapist weekly. You got to stay on top of it. So you know, it just it's hard to quantify how much more it gets
right.
as you get higher up the ladder.
And I guess it's come down to how bad do you want it. When you look at it and you talk about coaches, two subjects that come up before over and over again: do coaches
But,
steal athletes? And talk to me about the cookie cutter. Is there loyalty among the athlete and coach? Or do coaches actually go out there and actively try to steal athletes from another coach?
I haven't heard of other coaches lost.
Okay.
Connected?
Yeah, I got you now. Go back. You were saying that you haven't heard anything about coaches taking athletes.
I don't think so. I mean, maybe there's like one little story here and there you might hear, but I don't think it's a norm in the industry at all.
Okay.
I
And I would
hope
say probably more at the amateur level. Yeah. Cookie cutter. Everybody throws that subject out there. That everybody, when it comes to diet plans or guys or coach, um, sent me this plan, and it was just you know one size fits all.
you do see a bit of that. I mean, to a certain degree, or almost all nutrition plans for bodybuilders cookie cutter. Yeah, because we pretty much all eat the same thing,
Right.
right? So there's not going to be like crazy big differences. But I think the problems happen when you start seeing a bikini client and a
Mm,
physique athlete, and they've got the same quantity, the volume of
right.
food's the same. And we're definitely calling that a cookie cutter program, and
Right.
they're just sending them out and not customizing it to the
Right.
individual athlete. Um, and you see it with training too. So I think that's one of the really important aspects that you should also consider with your coach. He might be great on nutrition, but is he great when it comes to, hey, coach, they said I need to bring up my low lats.
Mm,
What do I do?
right.
So, can he program or she program for that to specifically, you know, better shoulder cap, and more low lat and more quad sweep. Okay, well, this is what you're going to do to achieve that. So, again, a cookie cutter program when it comes to your resistance training is not going to work either. Because especially the more advanced you get, the more you need to specialize your training to
Hmm.
develop your physique for you. Even when you train with a training partner, sometimes your physiological goals for each physique don't match.
Right.
They
Right.
might need just one leg day a week because they've got great legs and they need to really focus more upper body,
Right.
whereas you need to focus more on your legs and you don't need to focus so much on upper. So, it's very individualized and needs to be customized.
And every athlete is different. But does it matter red meat versus fish, or you just based on the athlete what they do well with? So it's not just like, okay, we're gonna go
Absolutely.
with, yeah. So
I
you
mean,
tailor the
there's
diet.
a time and a place when fish is going to be more important or used
Right.
more frequently, and a place where red meat's going to be used more. But then the customization comes in. Well, does this athlete have a cholesterol issue?
Right.
Can
Okay.
does that fish need to be salmon, and do we need to cut out the red meat? So again, it's very particular to each individual and their needs, and of course their likes too.
Right.
I don't like chicken. That's a hard one for bodybuilders. No, not me,
Yeah.
but when you get the bodybuilders, I don't eat chicken or eggs. Like,
Right.
ah,
And it just comes down to knowing your athlete, which is critical
yeah,
over time.
absolutely. And the longer you work with a
Alcohol.
coach, the more they get to know you.
Yeah. So alcohol, a lot of girls on middle shoots, especially the amateur level, say, "Hey, gotta have me some wine or whatever." Is that a thing? Is that norm? Should you have a shot before you go there to increase your vascularity or whatnot?
I've seen coaches do it. I've never done it
Hmm.
myself.
But does it help? I mean, what's the purpose of it?
It's supposed to, I think, make you a little more vascular.
Okay.
I guess wine vasodilation. Um, Salt will do the same thing. Uh, so I'm not really sure. Maybe it's more of a little bit of a calm your nerves kind of thing. Maybe it's where it
Mm,
kind of maybe got a
yeah.
little more of a foothold. Um,
Yeah.
you know, the last thing we want to see is somebody that had too much wine backstage on stage.
Oh yeah. Somewhat.
And I'm sure it's probably happened,
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
but I don't subscribe to that.
All right. So you are in Colombia lagging a little bit, but so far so good. But I want to sort of wrap this up. One of the last points from the article, and I want everybody to go out and subscribe to Amazon's fitmag.com and go out there and read the article, as well as you can buy the magazine online now as well. One coach had you on 1,200 calories through the off season. Talk to me about that.
My very first coach, yes. And I don't think she really coached. She was a bodybuilder. She, was an
Right.
amateur bodybuilder, and met her at the gym, became a friend, and um, one day she's like, "Hey, you do really well bodybuilding." I wasn't even bodybuilding yet, and it's something I'd
Wow.
always wanted to do. I kind of like dabbled with it when I was in my 30s.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, "Really?" She's like, "Yeah, you do really well." So, either that was a really good line to get a client, or,
Hmm.
she actually saw some potential maybe. But, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do this. Yeah, I want to be a bodybuilder. Let me do it.
Yeah.
So I had no clue about anything, nutrition, training, you name it. I mean, I'd been in and out of the gym my whole life, so I knew how to lift. I knew lifting principles and basics.
Yeah.
But when it came to nutrition part, didn't have a clue. And there was this older woman at the gym. I shouldn't say older now because she's probably much older than I am now. But she
Mature.
she had mature. She'd used to be a bodybuilder,
Uh-huh.
and she would tell me, she's like, she's killing you. She's killing you. She knew how
Uh-huh.
much I was eating, and I was just like, I didn't know what she meant. I'm like, oh, she's making me work hard. But she was like, you can't be in off season eating 1,200 calories.
Well, normally the body's supposed to have how many calories in a day?
Well,
2,400?
it varies, right? Of course,
Uh-huh.
based on your metabolic rate, your size.
Right.
Um, but 1,200 is usually a minimum that you don't really want to see people go below. Unless we're talking about elderly. When you start
Right.
getting in years,
But you were starving.
you eat less. I was starving and trying to grow muscle, with very little nutrition to support it, um, and naturally. So I did grow. I mean, so
Hmm.
I'm one of those people that builds muscle fairly easily. So
Right.
even in a caloric deficit, I do tend to grow, of course, very slowly, not
Mm-hmm.
like I would if I'm in a surplus. But I got through it. You know, interestingly, she had been, I think it took her 22 years to get her pro card. She
Mm.
kept at it.
Right.
But the reason she didn't for so many years is she never ate. She never grew. She
Okay.
never changed. She
Okay.
had like this fear that if she ate, she would get fat. So she basically always kept herself in a deficit and dieted to the point she actually had to get someone to help her with her metabolism because she just
Yeah.
over dieted herself for years and years. Um, but after she rectified that and rebuilt her metabolism and started eating and growing, amazing things happened, right? She grew and
Yeah.
she wins her pro card at like 56 at Masters Nationals in Pittsburgh. Like
Well,
her,
one of the things I want to close out with: how long should be a prep? And obviously, it ranges. If you're younger, maybe you can stay in prep for extended length of time. But at what point would you say that it gets dangerous? Because if a baseline prep is say 20 weeks, and then you do the one show, and then you do another one, is that just a gauge or a pitch count that the coach has to watch their athlete, or does it vary?
it absolutely varies. So yeah, 20 weeks is probably what I would consider an average prep. Some people can do less, get away with 14 or 16 weeks.
Right.
Some people need more. Uh, but can you do multiple shows, show after show? And obviously, many athletes do.
Right.
So is it dangerous? It can be if you're not,
Hmm.
checking your health and monitoring your health along the way. Because you're obviously subjecting your body to a lot of different things for a lengthy amount of time.
Right.
So, you just can't blindly go into it and just keep hammering it without making sure it's not doing, damage or things that you can't fix after the fact. Um, my understanding was that's why they did away with the point system is they didn't want athletes doing so many
Right.
shows. Um,
Right.
I guess that
Chasing
did
that
kind of
qualification.
right. So I guess it did kind of have an effect that there's some athletes aren't doing as many, but then you've got some that just do a lot of shows,
Right.
and are fine doing it. So again, I think it's just super individual. Somebody might be able to do 5, 6 shows in a season or in a year and be fine. And then maybe somebody like me does one, and my body's like, "Look, done." You know.
Yeah. So I don't want to hold you too long. You are in Colombia now, from Dubai in Colombia. And what time is there? I think you guys are an hour behind.
An hour behind, yes. In
Okay.
Colombia now, and on the way to Brazil next in a week, a little over a week.
Yeah. So you're all over the place, man.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do in Brazil?
Train.
Okay. I got you.
Be a bodybuilder. Yeah.
I got you. So for those that are just joining the show or just joining, or if you didn't hear it at the beginning of the podcast, Gina will not be doing the Triple O Dynasty. Um, Concerns with that. And so you'll be doing the New York Pro on
Yep.
May 18th. So that's the next
Yep.
show for you. So I want to wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Please say hello to our mutual friend Hella.
I
And
will.
I was talking with her earlier back and forth. We're going to do her podcast on the 7th of April, on that Sunday. So that'll be after
Nope.
the Triple O Dynasty. So we'll have a lot to talk
And it will
about as
be from
well.
Brazil.
Yeah, from Brazil too. Yeah, I got to match. Now, what's the times with that? She was saying
I'm not
noon
sure.
my time.
I think
So
it might be the same as yours. It might be Eastern.
we'll have to figure it out. So I don't. Are you guys training or are you guys vacationing? Because a little bit of both. Because I mean,
A little
it's
bit of both.
amazing to live the life that you live. Because you're traveling all over the world, from Dubai to Colombia, now Brazil. So it's got to be a lot of. You got to have some fun time too. Although you're taking
Absolutely.
it seriously in your training. So
Yeah.
uh, send me some postcards, man. Get me a souvenir or something.
All right.
But all the best, and on your way to the New York Pro, keep me abreast of what's going on. Next article is due 20. If you can get it to me by 20 April, that'll be for the May issue. So I can't
All
wait to
right.
see what you're gonna write it on. In the meanwhile, I urge everyone to go out and subscribe to Amazon's fitmag.com and see all the articles and all the content that Gina has been writing, as well as order the magazine as well.
Definitely
I'll give you the
subscribe.
last words, Gina.
Well, I just really appreciate what you do for female bodybuilding, for females in the sport, Glenn. It's amazing to have somebody out there that's a supporter, and not only just a silent supporter, but you do so much. By
Oh yeah,
you're giving us a venue, a media platform, so to
yeah.
speak, and you're also sponsoring athletes. I think you've got 3 now. It's incredible.
And I love doing that, but I mean, I'll be catching just as much hate just for even taking y'all's picture. And I got stories with that where it's not even worth going into it. But I'm like, a lot of stuff that I didn't expect. They look at the magazine, I mean, they look like a man. Why are you even shooting that? Um, so yeah, I would never try to attest my plight to what you guys are going through. But I catch the hate and the shade too. But I could care less because I'm gonna keep supporting you and
Yeah. Well, you know what?
hearing you guys as far as I can.
What you got to remember, if when I got my first hater, I thought, you know what, I must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So, you know what, let them hate all they want. It's because we look great.
Yeah, you do, and they're really an underground fan and don't want to come out and say it. So,
Yep.
so bump them. So, and I love all the divisions, and I think all of you are Amazons, all 6 divisions. And so you can't throw shade on one division and try to uplift the other because you got to pull them all together. But you guys catch a lot of noise that is just not worth it. But I support you, I love you, and we're gonna keep it going. Be safe out there, and
Right.
let's talk. Maybe we can get together next week, talk about the Triple O, and then talk to me about your plans. We walking in to the New York Pro.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks,
Great.
Glenn. All
You
right.
too. I'm
Bye.
Glenn Young for Amazon's Fitness Magazine. Celebrate the female physique. Make sure you subscribe to Amazon'sFitMag.com. We'll see you next time.